And we're going to see you running around in the can outfit anytime soon.
Oh, possibly.
Roaming Matty in the can outfit.
Yeah, is there a festival coming up where we can get it out?
There's always a festival. Man.
Yeah.
You know, Tony, there might be a couple of different sizes of that suit. Mate.
Oh, can't wait. I'll tell you what,
Careful
get some orange tights on me and I'm there.
I just can't wait.
I've already got the white shoes,
Yeah.
which is, works really well.
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of A Beer with the Brewer. This week we are joined by Jeremiah again.
Thank you, Matthew.
How are you, mate?
I'm good. How are you, mate?
Very well. And we have a special guest on today, Tony. How are we, Tony?
Very well, mate. How are you?
So for those that don't know Tony, he is a co-owner of the brewery. He's been around from the start, I believe.
Yeah.
And
I think he has, actually.
A long-time reveller.
Yeah, long-time reveller.
I think I recall having dinner with him before I'd even started at
Yeah,
Revel.
yeah, it was. Out on the deck of my old place. Yeah.
So somehow he didn't scare me off then. But
That's right. A lot of love in the Revel family.
So we've got Tony on today. This beer we're about to have a look at, I think holds a pretty special place in your heart, mate.
It does indeed. It was our first birthday and Matty said, "Hey Tony, come and help me brew a beer." And all that really involved was me having a shovel and digging out some old grains. But it's the first beer I brewed and it's pretty great. Love it.
Yes.
And very much enjoyed it on our first birthday. Maybe a little bit too much. It's great, easy drinking. Love it.
I did actually forget until you reminded me before that you came in for the brew day.
Yeah.
So that's, very good.
There's definitely DNA there.
Well, probably. I think I hurt myself. That's what
That wouldn't be like you,
a
mate.
drop of Tony's blood makes every beer better.
It really does.
I think on the brew day, if I recall, it was a few years ago now, the brew didn't run very well, this being quite a big beer.
Big beer.
We brewed it over at Oxford Street, loaded up the mash tun full of malt, and I think I got a stuck mash in the early days. So it didn't run very well. You mentioned you just had to duck up to the supermarket to get some sugar.
Yes.
So we chucked
30
a few bags of white wings to boost the gravity up to get the alcohol up. And I think there was a whole heap of water in the lauter tun, thinking back.
It was a big mess.
Yeah, we ended up with a big mess. So you were shoveling, literally shoveling up the malt
shoveling.
out of the restaurant. We were basically brewing in the restaurant at Oxford Street.
It was great.
Yeah, so fun times.
Excellent times.
Yeah, so
tell us a little bit about this this beer, Matty, the Revelry Double IPA.
yeah, so obviously as we were just talking about, we brewed it for our first birthday. One beer, which was nice.
Yep. As
Each
opposed
year,
to
this is getting more and more challenging.
how many this year?
Well, five. So yeah,
It's a challenging time. We better start planning for that though,
So
right?
back in the day, we only did one beer. Yeah, Tony come in and brewed it. I'm like, let's do something special. So we brewed the double IPA, which is pretty much the big brother to our Revel IPA, which has been there since the beginning.
Yeah, yep.
The idea really was to just soup up the IPA a little bit more.
Yep.
Not that it really needs it. So
it's already 7.5%.
yeah, so a lot of double IPAs, even our IPA would nearly be considered a double IPA at
Yeah,
some
it's very
breweries.
close, isn't it?
So I sort of wanted to make it, I guess, that next step from 7.5, so 9.
9, yep, you know.
Just a nice easy drinking
nice,
9%.
nice number.
But the first batch came out really nice. It was quite approachable for a beer that was so big.
So is that challenging, making a beer that's truly balanced with that high ABV for an IPA style, having it so it's not too offensive in terms of alcohol or potentially bitterness?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. So how do you achieve that?
There's a couple of ways you can achieve it. I was actually having this conversation earlier with one of the boys asking me about this. As the beer gets bigger in alcohol, basically you need more malt or more fermentable sugar to achieve that higher ABV, but it also makes everything sweeter.
It does.
The alcohol itself adds a sweetness and mouthfeel, and then just by purely all the extra sort of sugar and leftover sugar left in the beer. So you can achieve balancing that out a couple of ways. The main way in an IPA is with bitterness. So we sort of ramp up the bitterness to match the sweetness in the beer. And then you can also sort of tweak the pH a little bit. So I've spoken about pH before.
Yes, on a couple of podcasts ago.
Yeah, so if you sort of,
Acidity.
roughly as a rule, the lower the pH, the sort of more crisp and approachable a drink will be.
Is this somewhere around the 3.8, 4?
No, not quite that low. It's probably more 4.2.
4.2.
Yeah,
Okay.
anything under 4 is almost considered a sour in beer.
Oh right, okay. Yeah.
with red wine, as I've spoken about, some of the pH in that is down to 2.5, 2.8, which is, you're almost drinking acid. So that's pretty good for your teeth, full of sugar and acid. So that's sort of what I've tried to do with this, balance the bitterness while also not making it too bitter. I find sometimes with a beer like this, it might be awesome for the first half of the beer, and then you really got to get a knife and fork to chew it to get through it. So there's definitely a balance in getting it bitter enough to balance the sweetness in the beer, and at the same time not making it too bitter where it's chewy.
Yeah, and that's kind of one of the things that you try to achieve with all your beers, isn't it? That perfect balance between kind of drinkability and actual flavour, rather than a style guideline or some technical brewer's spec. It's how can you enjoy a full can of this, or maybe two, or maybe not this one.
Not this one.
You'd be rolling around like an untrained shareholder or co-owner.
We better crack it open.
Yeah, we better crack it. We've been talking about it. I haven't actually drunk this beer yet.
No, first time for me.
This is the third batch, and I'm extremely excited.
I did try one when I got home last night from football training.
I did see that photo. You were in an interesting location, were you?
That might have been the night before, actually.
Was that bath beer?
Having a bath time and enjoying a beer.
Oh,
look at that. Beautiful foam.
Oh, the aroma's already...
Oh, man.
It's just absolutely... Cheers, boys.
Cheers.
Thank you very much.
Cheers, Tony.
Cheers.
Cheers, the clarity
Thank you, Matty.
immediately.
Nice
That's a beautiful... It's slightly cloudy, but just... Oh, my.
Oh, Matty.
Well, you've definitely
Nice one.
nailed that balance. It's perfectly sweet. It's not too bitter. The colour is absolutely gorgeous. I mean, that's just like golden sunshine.
So after...
It really is.
Bloody delicious. And it doesn't taste super boozy.
Well, isn't this the danger zone though, Matty? When you create something this drinkable with that 9%, which is, what's that in terms of, that's 2.7 standard drinks in a can.
Yeah, which is probably enough.
Well, that's lovely.
So we're just talking about the first batch we did that everyone sort of loved. Came out quite well. And then we remade the beer, I think, roughly 6 months later.
For a winter.
So the first brew, as I said, didn't run very well through the brewery.
Yeah.
And then we went to brew it again. I basically went to make it the same. And it actually ran a whole lot better through the brew house.
Yeah.
So we got a lot more extract out of it.
Yes.
And I ended up actually having to liquor it back, put more water into it, essentially.
Yeah.
But the final beer came out a bit sweeter.
It was sweet.
And it probably wasn't as well balanced as the first batch.
Yeah.
So it's taken a while now. What are we now? Nearly year 5.
Yep.
To make this again. And that was some of the feedback, that it was a little bit sweet.
Yes.
So with a beer this big that's a bit sweet, it does make it quite hard to drink.
Yes.
It's a little bit cloying, particularly as it ages.
A little bit what, sorry?
Cloying.
Cloying.
Cloying in the mouth,
Interesting term.
Yeah. So with making this one,
very interesting terms, Matthew.
It's all cloy.
It's so cloy.
Yeah, cloy.
I'm gonna use that one.
Yeah.
I might use that tonight. It's very technical.
This tastes like a beer that's going to get... Oh, like the flavour will change as it gets a bit warmer, do you reckon?
Yeah, definitely. It is still quite cold, but as it warms, more of the hot flavour will come out.
No, it's awesome.
And do you enjoy, as a brewer, brewing these sorts of beers? This is quite a large IPA, it's a double IPA.
Yeah, well, it's a challenge to get it right. And it's not something you brew every day. Like we said, we haven't brewed it for probably 3 years. So going back and using the feedback from a few years ago, making sure that you get one shot, you want to nail it. Yeah. So yeah, there is definitely a challenge in doing so.
It amazes me every time because just to give some insight, your team, we don't have a pilot system. We don't have a 50-litre little brew house or a 500-litre brew house. So when you go all in with this and brewed at Rivermakers, what's the batch size that you're actually brewing?
This one here was 1,500.
Yep.
So we bought the two 1,500 or 15 hectolitre fermenters over from Oxford Street.
Yep.
Which has been good for doing stuff like this.
Oh, brilliant.
So we can do the sort of more, I guess, limited or specialist limited, I guess.
Yes.
Where we don't end up with 35 hect that's going to sit around for a bit longer.
Yeah, right.
So we can do a beer like this, punch it through. Hopefully it's gone within the first month.
That's it.
And then roll on to the next one.
Fresh is best.
Yeah, that's
so 1,500 litres, not brewing it in 3 years and then going all in. It's quite a sizable batch, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. But it's, I guess you just sort of base it on what's been happening through the brewery. We've been using Rivermakers now for nearly 18 months, I think.
Yes.
so obviously you get the brewery dialed in, you sort of understand how it works. It was a fair bit different to the Oxford Street Brewery, a lot more efficient.
Yeah, cool.
It's just a newer, sort of better design system, I guess.
Yeah, bigger
and bigger, twice as big.
Bigger.
Oh, probably a bit more. So it takes a little while to get everything sort of running up to speed how you want it. And then when you get it dialed in, you can sort of base the beers off that and what you've done in the past.
So speaking of dialing it in, this can design is it has the spirit or the essence of the original Revelry, but it's been changed and it's come into the same format as all of our limiteds now.
Yep.
And so Revelry is the act of, it's that true spirit of reveling and probably above and beyond a normal revel.
I've probably been known to indulge in some
a bit of
revelry
revelry.
myself from time to time.
Have a bit of revelry.
Over the years.
I think the first thing you said to me when I talked to you about the new branding from malt to revel, you said, I do enjoy a good revel. But this one is, we tried really hard to get that beautiful gold wrap.
Yeah, the first one
original...
being the first birthday, we wanted to make it something special. So we had the beautiful gold. At the time, we had our standard Rebel can, just with the gold band on the bottom. But
I thought that was pretty fancy, man.
Yeah, I thought it was as well.
Gold.
So we've tried to capture that in doing this. And once again, Verg has done a great job.
Yeah, Matt Vigotis, another shout out to you, mate. This one has been taken to the next level. So I'd like to point out a couple of little things here. Firstly, the double IPA has a little tip of the cap to the Rivermakers history. It's actually the chimney from our main building in the historic acetate of lime factory. So the little spark coming out of the eye in the double IPA is actually the chimney, which is really cute. And it's these subtleties. There's love is in the detail.
After a couple of these, you'd pick that up.
You probably would, yeah.
You're like, is that?
Especially in the bath, with the, bubbles around. You wipe them away.
Oh, you should treat yourself.
Yeah. Well, you did introduce me to shower beer, not together, but it was something that I hadn't really.
That's why I still play footy, mate, so I can have a shower with the boys.
That's right. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that. But the next thing is probably those of you that went to the Great Australian Beer Spectacular in Brisbane.
Gabs.
Gabs.
Yeah.
You would have seen our little mascot, the Reveller, for the first time to make an appearance up on the backdrop of our stall there. So he or she is taking a full prime position on the front of our can now, which embodies everything that Revel's about. Our little Revel can just having a little bit of revelry on the can, and we're really proud of that. And look, watch this space because there's plenty more of that coming. And a big shout out to Matt Vigotis for producing such a key artifact for us. It's really cool.
And we're going to see you running around in the can outfit anytime soon?
Oh, possibly.
Roaming Matty in the can outfit?
Is there a festival coming up where we can get it out?
There's always a festival. Mate.
Yeah.
Tony, there might be a couple of different sizes of that suit. Mate.
Oh, can't wait. I'll tell you what,
Careful
get some orange tights on me and I'm there.
I just can't wait.
I've already got the white shoes,
Yeah.
which works really well.
I think you would look good in gold, Tony.
Yeah, definitely.
I think, Tony, this is the first time you've tried this beer. Are you looking forward to having a few more of these?
Maybe a couple more. Not too many.
I think
the last time was the summer, so it was interchanging between the pale and the Revelry. And some people thought it would be a funny idea to keep bringing me the Revelry instead of the pale.
when you say people, you mean yourself.
It was me. What can I say?
I think it was Geordie that was serving him too.
I can't imagine Geordie would do it.
I brought a few people from work, and I was pretty excited about the first beer I'd made, and I got a bit huggy by the end, I think.
I think there was a few cuddles.
There was a few
going
cuddles,
around.
mate. It is a beer that will make you cuddle in the end. So
There's nothing like the warm embrace of Tony
Yeah.
after a few double
that's
IPAs.
exactly
It
right.
truly is
So,
something to revel in.
It's bloody delicious, though, mate. Like that's the trouble. It's so easy to drink that you're happy to sit down and have a couple on a row. But
Yeah, I really look forward to enjoying this with some different food too. Actually,
I guess step back. You asked me about how you make a beer like this. The other important thing, because it's such a big beer, it's a big fermentation. The yeast has to do a lot of work. So when you pitch a beer this strong, we have to put more yeast in to start with because the yeast works harder and almost, I guess, for want of a better word, gets flogged out by the end of it.
flogged.
So you really want to keep the yeast healthy. So you need more in there so that each cell is not doing as much work because it's creating the extra booze. And that's how you get that really nice sort of smooth, clean flavour.
Yeah.
And also maintaining the right sort of fermentation temperature throughout. So we ferment the beers at about 18 degrees on the yeast strain we use. Just make sure you got good yeast health, and then you get that really nice sort of clean flavour come out in the beer. That's how you get them really nice and smooth.
It's definitely smooth. That's a good way
You drink
to
some beers
describe
like this and they're a little bit hot, which is, they can be higher alcohols and unhealthy fermentation. So you want to make it sort of nice and clean, and then you get the nice clean flavour of the beer.
Mate, it's absolutely amazing, and it always blows my mind how much goes into making these beers. You know, people see the tin, they open it and they enjoy it, but the science behind it and everything that you guys do in the background, it's truly, truly amazing. But it sounds like this is very much a limited beer. There's not a lot of it in terms of package. So would strongly encourage anyone who wants to get their hands on this to get on our online store at revelbrewingco.com.au and order some before it starts to sell. And it will be limited released through our good bottle shops, the indies, and yeah, keep an eye out for it in your local.
Nice. And if you've enjoyed the first one, I reckon this is a good successor to that. Second one, you know, was all right.
Had its area for improvement.
This is bloody great though, mate.
Fantastic.
Nice.
Beautiful. Cheers, guys.
Oh, cheers, boys. We'll enjoy the rest of this.
Yeah.
Well, some of it.
There's 5 more lined up for you, Tony. Somewhere else, of course.
Somewhere. Nice one.